get in frame or whatever?
No, that's us right there.
Yeah, you can see yourself right there.
I can see. Blurry, but yes.
It says excellent connection, so maybe it's good.
There it is. It's up. It's live. Live from New York City. This is Saturday night. No, it's Sunday night. Never mind.
Saturday night. Oh yeah, it is Sunday night. Sunday night live.
Yeah.
All right. I am ready. Is everybody else ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Y'all ready?
Let's do it.
Heck yes. Start recording. Get this show on the road. I hope everything's good. Ah, that button.
Yep.
Welcome to Mead Talk.
Me too.
Thanks so much for showing up tonight in the crowd and online if you're going to view us. We are so thankful for you being here. If you have not seen or heard of Mead Talk before, just to let you know, in order to enter the realm of Mead Talk, you must consume 3 glasses of mead to be on the show. So everybody up here is well on their way to having a great conversation tonight. We believe that everything's better with mead. And it dissolves the filters of the mind so the truth can come out. So we have fun conversations, difficult conversations, intense and serious conversations up here. We believe that communication and conversation is the way to peace, love, light, and sometimes war, but it happens. But, it all is conversed about, and we believe that's extremely important. So, we have 2 amazing guests. Our first time ever having 2 guests up here at once,
Yes.
which is really awesome. Oh, by the way, yes, we do also do this in front of a live audience. Our live audience is a little slim tonight, but, it's been a while since we've been up here,
Yeah.
so we've been very busy lately. But we're back at it, rolling smooth, so... First, I would like y'all to introduce yourselves, and then I have questions, and I know he has questions. I know we're all going to have a lot of questions, so we'll get to those in a minute. But first, please introduce yourselves, starting whatever order y'all want to start in.
Hi, I'm Dan Farmer.
And I'm his wife, Holly Farmer.
This is my wife.
Dan and
Holly.
Holly, pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
I don't have I met y'all before yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I didn't think so. I didn't
Yeah.
think I'd met
Yeah,
him yet.
no, you
Okay,
haven't.
yeah, sweet. So, hey, how you doing? My name is Matt Pollard. Rob.
yeah.
We have met.
You have Matt, yeah, for sure. Well, it's super excited to meet y'all. So, from what I gather, and I'm just gonna throw, I'm not sure. So, from what I've heard, you're a rabbi of some sort, Russ.
No.
Okay, sweet. I'm glad we clarified that. Tell me, what is it that you do? Wait. So I've got a different question. Y'all are considered Messianic Jews, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So explain what that is for me, for the audience, for people who might not know. I know these people right here know, but, for anybody listening that might not know what that is.
Right. Messianic Judaism, it means that you believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Mainstream Judaism does not. Mainstream Judaism believes that Jesus was a good man. He was possibly a prophet, but as far as being the Messiah, the deliverer of mankind, no, they don't believe that.
They don't read the New Testament,
Correct, yes.
and you guys do.
That is correct.
That is awesome. But you still keep to like the traditions of Judaism, right?
Yes. Yeah, we keep all of the high holy days that are prescribed in the book of Leviticus chapter 23. We keep all of those holidays because they're God's feasts. Whereas, which would be the same as in a mainstream synagogue. They would follow those. but they don't see where Jesus was the fulfilled prophecy in the past and the future. So
Yeah.
that we emphasize very heavily, the Messianics do, that Jesus is the fulfillment of that holiday in the future. Whatever holiday, he's the fulfillment in the future.
Okay. That's awesome. I believe the same thing, but I don't like, so I'm just Christian, whatever that means nowadays. I mean, I know what it means, but, it's got a negative connotation nowadays, right? So it's very interesting, though, because you guys are like some of the most hated class, right? Because you're Jewish and Christian. Like, that's like the worst of the worst right now in this world,
Pretty
which
much.
is wild, right? So, because... Yeah, I was about to say, like, Christians don't like you, and then
Right, yeah.
and then the rest of the world doesn't like you, so it's like, I like you, I think you're cool, but, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, so what what's the main differentiation between a Christian and a Messianic Jew?
Christians would not, well, the majority of it, Christians do not adhere to the Old Testament laws.
Yeah.
The dietary laws, the holidays, they overlook them because they're irrelevant in their opinion, which, it started happening, hundreds of years ago when the church believe that those things have been done away with.
But that's actually a relatively new doctrine of just like the last couple of 100 years, that way back when Christians, like first century, like Jesus' disciples, they would have absolutely, kept all of the Lord's feasts and everything. And Jesus, he went to synagogue, he kept the feast, he did all these things. And at that time, there was no division, and the division actually came much later, when a very kind of anti-Semitic regime, so to say, kind of took over Christianity as we know it today and kind of wanted to separate themselves.
Was that like Catholicism or?
The Council of Nicaea?
Yeah,
The Council of Nicaea.
Well, from what I understand, the Council of Nicaea was separation of agnostic and followers of Jesus, right? So the agnostic beliefs are very heavily influenced into that era, and they wanted to make sure that it did not influence it further.
Correct, yes.
But, and they had some very, what we would call nowadays new agey kind of thoughts, right?
The Gnostics do. And a lot of Messianics, unfortunately, are heading down, I've noticed within the past 5 years, headed down the Gnostic road.
Yes, they're going back to that
Yes.
type of thought process for sure.
Yeah.
They've definitely lost the seriousness of the Bible, and they've lost the fact that God is a judge.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And that he's just,
Yeah.
They've lost that part of it, I believe. They always want to preach the good things, and I call them, prosperity preachers. That's a lot of the Christianity out there nowadays. It's all about, oh, Jesus, everything's great, and, just think this and believe this and knock on the door.
Yeah, the biggest
till it
problem is
opens
now it's like, hey, all those guidelines and rules you're supposed to live by? Well, we can stretch those, and just because there's a verse in the Bible or 3 verses that mention don't do this, ignore that because Jesus is love, and you just have to love, and yeah.
Right, and then they forget that he said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments.
You'll keep my
Exactly.
And he wasn't talking about New Testament because that wasn't written yet. So
Right.
what commandments was he talking about when he said, if you love me,
Right.
you'll keep my commandments?
So and so I'm of the belief that the commandments were taken even further when Jesus was here, right? So he took it one step further than what the Mosaic laws were, right? So I'm under the impression that Jesus took it from more of a physical to a spiritual and mental reality. So he kind of transcended the laws. In my interpretation of what he said, right? So as like we'll take it to like hate, right? So if you hate someone, you've murdered them in your heart, right? Mm-hmm. So it used to be in Moses' time, and Jewish law was if you murder somebody, you've murdered somebody, not if you hate somebody, right? So that was kind of a transcending part of the law, in my mind, right? What's that?
Murder is still wrong.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So,
but hate is also wrong, right?
Right. Yeah, and to your point, it's a both and that's a big thing about
yes.
What we like to do is we like to be biblical. We're not a huge fan of labels, even though the best label to describe us would be messianic, but actually it's more that we try to be biblical. And so in that, it's really cool because there's not necessarily just one correct answer. Like you said, it's a both and. Yeshua came and I like to say he added some commentary to the law. You still have the law, which is still applicable and good, but he further expounded on it to say, hey, it's not just this, it's also this.
Oh,
and so that's not a doing away with the old.
No, I wouldn't say. No,
exactly. And
no, but it makes it even more in depth, right?
Right, exactly.
So,
it gives more meaning and understanding to
committing adultery. Jesus said that if you look at a woman with lust on your heart, you have committed adultery. Right. Not just the act, just the thought.
Right.
Yes.
Has committed adultery.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant by and I use transcended just because it is the proper term, but it does sound new agey, and I'm sorry. But
I think that term is spot on, because the establishment that he came to rail against, the established system was exclusive.
Yes.
It excluded a lot of the outcasts of society. It excluded the fringes, which God wanted to include. To a certain point, even synagogues today and churches do it today. My sister's had horrible experiences in churches. Well, if you're going to come to our church, you have to dress like us. You have to look like us.
Yeah. That's Jesus plus.
Yes.
Whatever we say, right? I love that. That's amazing.
I have looked for scripture to tell me how to dress when I go to worship Christ.
Yes.
It says come as you are. It does tell you.
It does tell you that.
Some clothing is preferred, though.
Yes, absolutely. There are still laws.
Well, it does talk about that. Nakedness and everything else in our fallen world. It does say some things about that. I think I refer
Even
back to
the
Noah's
Old
time.
Testament. I was going to say, Canaan and Noah,
It does go back to that.
It does.
But yes, some clothes are definitely preferred.
Please.
But yeah, I would definitely. So, man, we're about to dive deep here.
Come
on.
Come on.
Hold on, before you do that, I just have one question.
Yeah, go for it.
So, do you follow every law in the Old Testament? For example, the Sabbath.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where I was going, because Christ did heal somebody on the Sabbath.
Right.
We obviously we cannot follow all of the Old Testament laws because I'm not a woman.
And also, we're not in the land, and some of the laws were specifically for in the land.
Well, and okay, so all of the laws are followed.
All of the laws are what?
So what laws, or I don't know if you can get into specifics or no specifics of exactly which laws you don't follow or why.
I think it's safe to say we follow the ones that are, and I don't want to say applicable because but my example, so there's a lot of laws, right? And
absolutely.
And so some of them were specific about when you cross into the land and when you take possession of the land, you're to do these things. So some of the laws were specific to a time and a place. So we wouldn't necessarily do all of those. But the ones that are, applicable, such as Sabbath and the feast,
Right.
and how to deal with, money and how to, raise children and those things that, are still applicable today that weren't specific for a specific time and a specific place, we do try to keep those. And to your point about the Sabbath, what's interesting about that is he was chastised for, healing on the Sabbath, but
Right.
it's not prohibited by the law
Yeah.
to heal on the Sabbath.
Well,
So
David
wasn't
David
breaking
took
the law.
bread and
Yes,
on
he
the
did.
Sabbath
Right.
and fed people.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and he actually referred back to that in the Old Testament when that happened, when they approached him about that.
Right.
When they approached Jesus about that, just to clarify for anybody. But yeah, that's really cool. So okay, so anything that's applicable, and you said specifically you have to be in the land that was given to the Israelites, right?
Well, some of the things are specific to that region, but you can still take the principles and apply them, such as how to grow crops and when you should prune them and when you should, that. I mean,
That's
those are still
a really
very,
good one.
and
I've been learning a lot about that
Yes.
lately.
right, and that's still. I mean, you can take that one, even though it was really specifically for the land. You can still take it and apply it to crops today.
So for a long time, and I'll just throw this out there, we'll get to it later though, but for a long time I've been trying to make the connection of land and God and how to represent and basically be a ministry through what I do with the land, right? And it's all really coming together for me recently, which is really cool. But we'll get to that maybe later, or in another meat talk. I don't know, but because we got a lot to go through, I think.
Michelle actually has a really good story that your grandfather would let his fields rest.
Yes,
So
it's important.
it's not a new idea. It's a very old idea. It's just that we've neglected to know what the laws are.
Yes.
And I think that's the key, Dan, what you said, that people have neglected to know what the laws are. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times when Jesus was being criticized by the Pharisees for breaking the law, he was not breaking Torah. He was not breaking God's law. He was actually breaking the man-made laws that were put in place
Yes.
to keep you from breaking God's law.
Yeah,
We call it fence laws.
Yeah, because
So,
there's different laws that are represented in the Bible. There's moral law. There's
There's dozens
cultural laws and
dozens of categories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I was saying. Sometimes you just have to figure out which of those are, still applicable for you. And like Dan said, he can't keep all of them because he's not a woman. Because there's some that are specifically for
Right.
women.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So.
That's very interesting that you said that. Yeah. I'm glad you said that because that's important.
And I identify as a man.
Yeah. You don't have to identify that way.
Right,
You
that-
either are or you aren't.
Yeah, exactly.
But we have some people that don't believe that is the case, which is very interesting to me. That you can come to a place where you're so confused that is the case, right?
Correct.
It is a wild idea to throw out there. We won't dive into that tonight. That's a long subject to get into. So there's something I was going to ask before you rudely interrupted earlier.
Okay, you can have the floor now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you wanted to go deep, so
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, that's great. I just forgot what I was going to ask. That's the problem. Let's see. So, I know, right? That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all.
So,
Adds anxiety.
so if you have read through the Old Testament at least once,
Yep.
you will come across the Sabbath.
Yes.
Why is it being observed on Friday night to Saturday night in Jewish as well as Islamic cultures? They observe it Friday night to Saturday night.
Yeah.
Why do Christians observe it on Sunday?
I don't know. I don't observe.
From
the
what I
Sabbath,
understand,
so-
it is because on the seventh day he rested.
So
Wouldn't
what is the Sabbath day?
It's a Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 But
I understand that. but-
yes,
Okay. Yeah.
which I learned that at a very young age and thought it was odd because of the way we had been brought up in church.
From what I understand, when Romans took over Catholicism, they made it the Sun Day, which was the sun god day or whatever, and they kind of manipulated all that, the calendar and everything else.
Yeah,
and-
that was Constantine.
Yeah, Constantine. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
which had some really great influence and ideas and stuff, but kind of went off in the wrong direction with it. So,
Yeah.
but
But over a series of probably 100, 200 years, anything that resembled anything Jewish was systematically taken out. The Sabbath was moved from Friday night to Sunday. All of the holidays changed. Easter, which is a pagan holiday, was
Yes.
suddenly included.
well, Christmas is a pagan holiday too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't want to ruffle too many feathers.
Well,
our first
that's
time
why
here.
I tell my wife all the time we should not do Christmas.
No. Yeah.
At all, because I know the whole story of Christmas, and I've told her it many times because I've done the same rituals, right? So like I used to be like druidistic type,
Yeah.
and got into that
Yeah.
world and everything. And I was in Germany, and I would find the mushrooms that they would take and stuff under the Christmas trees.
Yeah.
Same friggin' tree, and I would pick them and I would take them back, but I used a blender because I'm high tech, and I would eat the mushrooms and stuff, and I would do all that stuff. But
Hence flying reindeer.
yeah, right, yeah, yes, yes.